Welcome to the third video of this initiative on a video series on how to survive IIM Ahmedabad or surviving IIM Ahmedabad. And this video is not so much about what you do on campus, but what are the three activities to pursue before you start your MBA. And this is certainly something that I wish I knew before I started out. Before I get into the meat of the matter, these are just 4 slides from the first video, just to give you a little bit background on where I'm coming from. So if this is the first video you're watching, just pause the slides and get a better sense of what the videos are all about. So now getting to the meat of the matter. 3 useful activities to pursue before the start of your MBA. The first one, be an entrepreneur for 3 companies. Now, I'm not asking you to actually go out and start 3 companies. This is more of a thought experiment, a thought exercise. Why I say this is because when it comes to assignments in a BSchool environment, I think there are broadly 3 challenges. The first is just coming up with a topic for the assignment itself, what the topic should be. And a lot of times the professors will ask you to choose a suitable topic and go and do your assignment on that. Given you have to spend substantial amount of time on that topic, it's best that you pick something which is, let's say, aligned with your interest. The second thing is about having a team and having it work. This can also be a significant stress, and I'll talk about this separately when I talk about study groups. But sometimes not everyone is as motivated and this while doing an assignment, and a lot of the work is group work. So this can cause significant stress for people, lead to poorer working relationships. So that's again one. How do you execute? And the third is sometimes the sense of futility, right? Not all courses excite everyone, and even if it's exciting, sometimes people feel that a particular assignment, how much value does it really add to my life? So some people do assignments for grades alone, but if grades is not your motivation, then how do you really pump yourself up and still give your 100% to an assignment? I think that problem, all these 3 problems are solved if you do this, which is create a mental think about 3 companies and pick 3 very different companies, right? One, let's say, a service company, one's a production company, or third thing is something else altogether. And what I mean by essentially creating these companies is think through that, okay, let's say 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. If you had to start up, what would you do? Start making a thesis around that. Think about what are the things you will need, what are the questions that need to get answered. Okay, let's say that you want to create a new social media app. That's one of the companies that you decide. Now, just research a little bit before you start on what all goes into it. Now, what you can essentially do after that is all your courses can get aligned to this one topic, right? So if I take the marketing courses, in my first year, I did about, I think, 4 marketing area courses, which include everything from market research to how to apply just getting a better sense of how to apply particular frameworks in a particular setting. Now, I already have a topic which is of interest to me. So the topic front and the utility front can both get sorted out. And the team front also gets sorted out because now I know that even if others are not working, it's completely fine because I'm completely investing. All the effort I'm putting into this assignment is possibly an investment into my own future, in my better understanding something which can be monetized in the future. A thought experiment might not always result into that level of excitement. So what I did was, and because I started late, I could not think 3 different companies. What I did was I started figuring out what my friends were doing, and I helped out a couple of friends with their ideas, the startups that they were working with, and I tried to align my assignments with that. And that itself was also very fulfilling. Now imagine if I had been able to create my own ideas and work on them, it would have been much better. So your marketing courses can be aligned with that. Your HR courses can be aligned with that. If let's say you're setting up a new company, right? How would you want your top leadership to be? How would you want to motivate your employees? So whether you treat it like a tech company or more specifically social media company, your assignments can be more your marketing, HR, and all the other areas assignment can be more structured. So try doing that. Your assignments will become far more fun and much sharper because your quality of output is dependent upon quality of input. And in this case, one might be more motivated in terms of putting in the hours. And who knows, at the end of the 2 years, if all your assignments are aligned with it, a lot of the work that would go into actually creating this enterprise would already be done in your 2 years. And because you are putting in so much effort into it, your grades and your assignments will also be pretty sorted. The subsequent, so that's on the academic front. The another benefit would be that if you have a sharper thesis, so right now I've just mentioned a social media company, but one might have it would be better if someone has a much clearer sense of these three companies. Then even the different decisions that you make in terms of what guest lectures to attend, which professors to talk to, which of the batchmates who have worked in a particular industry to talk to more initially to get their perspectives. A lot of the decisions that you have to take get simplified because you're more directed towards what you want to do. So I think it's a really useful exercise. You can think through, if not three, two, if not two, even one company, and have a very clearer sense of where you want to take this company. It would help a lot. The second advice would be to build your skill toolkit. And three things here: Excel, presentation skills, and analytical writing skills. Why I pick these three is largely because, and the biggest reason is individualism. These are all activities which you can do on your own. Second is content. Whether you look at YouTube or whether you look at platforms like Coursera or Udemy, there are a significant number of resources which are available to learn this. Third is the time. It does not take a lot of time to get the basics in place. Though yes, execution and getting better at them will take time. But given they are an individual activity, given there is significant content available, and it does not take a lot of time, I think it makes a lot of sense to do this upfront. Because if you are good at these things, your life on campus will be sorted out. And let me go through this one by one. And also I mentioned that given that these take time to get better at. So if you do them beforehand, you save on time because these are things you will have to good at in your 2 years. You save time on campus learning these things. So if you can front load something, then do some of the things that you already know you are going to spend time on campus. If you can do them before you start, you will get more time to sleep or socialize or to study, which are the three things I mentioned in my previous video. So it's very helpful. Second, iteratively from the very first day with the very first assignment that you have, you can start practicing these skills. And at the end of your 2 years, you will be very good at it, even if you start at a very basic level upfront. So from that perspective, I think it's a very useful exercise to do. And I'll talk about these three in detail. Excel. Uh, as I mentioned initially also, that I'm heavily influenced by uh, my consulting internship. And at least if you're looking at a consulting internship, I cannot say so authoritatively of all the segments, but I think people in marketing, people in finance, especially people in finance, need to know Excel just as well. And it can cause significant stress for people that they're not very good at Excel before they start their internship. And the first year, at least at IIM Ahmedabad, does provide some opportunity to learn, but it's not a lot. So it's a good idea to learn this beforehand. You will enter the space much more confidently. Second is about presentation skills, and there are two key aspects here. The first aspect is actually making the PPT. Second is presenting. You can get a lot of useful tips on both fronts. When you talk about making PPT, it's about how you structure your thoughts, right? How do you storyline? Does your second slide flow from the first slide, your third slide flow from the second slide? It's a very useful activity to do. And the second aspect is aesthetics. You can choose to have plain aesthetics like I've decided to on this deck because I wanted the content to be the focus and not anything else. But it's a good idea to know that aesthetics work. People like things when they're logically arranged and when they look good. So these are very simple basics you can learn from like watching 4 YouTube videos. But I think making the PPT is still fine. I mean, it's not that big a challenge. You can learn it even on campus fairly quickly. But the presentation aspect, and this I feel is a major problem for so many people when they enter on campus. It's largely because our undergraduate programs do not provide, most of the colleges do not provide an opportunity for students to go out there and present their work to a lot of people. Whereas a B school class requires you to make PPTs constantly and presenting them over and over again in class. Some are forced presentations, sometimes you'll just be asked to volunteer. So look at 4 or 5 videos on how to improve your public presentation and get this right. I cannot even tell you how much of this tries into people's confidence when they're on campus, because you will have a bunch of people who are very good presenters and a bunch of people who are not. And many of my friends were not very comfortable with the idea of presenting. I think it just somehow did flow into their overall level of confidence. Does not happen to everyone. I don't want to generalize it, but I'm talking about my own personal experience with some of my friends. And I don't think it's such a big problem to solve. So get into a habit of presenting, look at a mirror, present, create mock presentations so that you have storylining and aesthetics all sorted out, and then present it to your family if you want before you start. Present it to your friends, but do present a few times before you end up on campus and learn the basics from anything, any place that you want. The third thing is analytical writing basics. Here I would say, because it's difficult to get feedback, at least with excellent presentation, you get a basic sense of whether you're making sense or not. Analytical writing and basics, I would just say just go over some of the resources. And I personally feel that some of the case study videos on this channel are also very helpful, because analytical writing at the very core of it is structuring your thoughts and presenting them in a logical fashion, which is what case studies for consulting interviews are all about. So some of the tips on how to structure your thoughts on this channel, some of the videos for that might help. But go out and also look at some of the other things like the pyramid principle book that Barbara Minto has. Try to figure out what that is. Look at some of these other principles. Just have this analytical writing basics sorted out for you, because so many writing assignments are going to come your way in your first year. And a better structured assignment is more easy to read, and in my sense does end up getting a better grade almost always compared to a assignment which is not very well written in terms of its structuring, when it's not very analytical. So get these 3 things sorted out. It's not a lot of work, to be very honest. Third thing, and this flows from my previous video also, absolutely know yourself better. Keep revisiting why do you want to do an MBA. Forget what you've been telling the world, get the answer for yourself. The second thing would be, which sector do you want to enter? And this might flow from a why MBA question as well. Now here, with the second question, I don't expect people to have like the ultimate clarity, right? Because one very important reason that one is doing an MBA is to go out and experiment, learn more things, and your priority, and for having your priorities to change. But at least have a start, right? I think, I mean, this is my personal opinion, being a complete blank slate is also not very useful. You can say that I'm more inclined towards consulting, but I'm also open to marketing. But let's say I do not want to go into finance, pending, let's say, some crazy eye-opening moment. At least have that kind of clarity. And this is not that difficult to have. Talk to people, understand these jobs better. Again, like the second aspect of our toolkit, these are things, these are conversations. This is an understanding you can develop easily on your own before entering campus. Your job on campus should be to actually have a set of hypotheses about different sectors and trying to verify them, instead of being a complete blank slate and trying to figure it out. Use your mentors, use LinkedIn, talk to people randomly, like maybe figure out how to actually write a very good cold message to people in different sectors. There are enough resources on YouTube on how to write a cold message to people on LinkedIn. Do that, talk to those people before you enter BSchool and have a clearer sense of which are the sectors you would consider and which are sectors you would not. And why I say this is so important, because if you're a random gust of wind, then you wouldn't know which conversations to prioritize when you're on campus, and you will end up having too many conversations which will waste your time. What also sometimes ends up being disastrous is that people end up then preparing for 2 or 3 different types of jobs at the same time with the same amount of time that they have. If anyone ends up doing that and going back to the prioritization and the choices aspect all over again, if someone decides to make that choice, then some of the other elements of their campus life will suffer significantly. So, basic thing, I don't want you to cast it in stone that I just want to be a consultant, but have a clearer sense of where you want to be so that you do not fall into herd mentality. And this again can be done before. Do not be a blank slate completely. The third thing here would be just, and this might perhaps be more relevant for people who are going into consulting, but just Google what are the different personal experience interview questions that are typically asked in interviews. So tell me something about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What's the biggest challenge you have faced? All those questions. And I have a separate video which I'll be that you can look at on some of the do's and don'ts, some of the basics that you can do to actually have your personality shine in a when it comes to these kinds of questions. But what you can do is you can look at Google what are the different questions and also just study people's answers that you can find online. Okay, fine, what are the typical ways that people answer these questions, and have your stories emerge in your head. How would you answer these questions? Again, this is an activity for which a B school is not required. You can start thinking about these things upfront. All in all, if you do these things, if you know yourself better, I think if I relate it to the previous video, your choices will be much sharper, your prioritization will be much sharper, and that way your time management, which is so critical, is going to be better. So try to do these 3 sets of activities before you start your MBA, and I think that you will start on a much more confident footing than you would have perhaps without doing these. So that's it on this front. As always, do not forget to keep revisiting these ideas and share them with others. And drop me a note if you want. Look at some of the other videos on this channel. And well, take care, best of luck, and stay curious.